Hey everybody, this is Jeff. I'm just going to give you a quick overview to get you started on your search for your literature review. Um, and I'm going to do most of it just in Galileo Discover search is what it's called. And then later on, I can follow up with some more instruction. So when you're searching Galileo, and let's say that I'm looking for information on millennials and personnel management. Well, the first thing to think about is when you search, you want to search broad to narrow. And what I mean by that is it's not always the best idea to overload the search box here with all of your terms. When you do this, you can't really know which term it is that's throwing off your the relevance of your search. So I'm just going to start with one aspect of my search. I'm going to start with personnel management. Now, inside of this search, um, I can go through, and what I'm going to look at is to see does my term match with what's occurring here in Galileo? And I'm going to look in the title and also in the subject line. And I would probably grab a piece of paper and pen so that I could keep note of any terms that I learn. So I'm looking for, are there variations on my term? Like, are there narrower ways that I could say what I'm looking for? And so right now, I've only searched for personnel management, and I did search for it as a phrase by putting double quotes around it, if you can see that. So this is a keyword though. That means that any occurrence of the term personnel management is coming up in the result. So I have 558,000 results. Now, as I go through, you're also going to start noticing this subject line. Now, what that means, let me click on the title here, is that the publisher of this magazine called Workforce has assigned these two subjects to this article by Michelle Rafter. They've assigned personnel management software and personnel management. Now, this is subjects is very, if you would think about how many words, this one actually says 1,916 words in this article. So the likelihood of a keyword for personnel management, all of these are words within this document, but there are only two subjects. So this phrase, personnel management, is a much broader search than the subject of personnel management. So now you'll see that personnel management as a subject comes up with 325,000. So that is a narrower search. But right now, I'm less concerned with narrowing down my search. I'm more concerned with matching up my phrasing, my terminology with what's in Galileo, and I feel confident seeing personnel management occurring in the subject and in the title that we can use this language in our search. So now I'm going to go to new search and I'm going to search for millennials. And so I'm going to search for that phrase. I have 424,000. So notice this one has something interesting occurring. While millennials is occurring in the title, Generation Y is occurring in the subject. So um, what that means for me at the most basic level is that I'm going to want to include both terms in my search. So how could I do that? One, I could go with millennials and personnel management, and I could run a search. And then later on, I could do a second search for Generation Y and personnel management. You can see, or I could place an or in my search box here and search for both of them at the same time. So I went from 3,000 and 3,000 plus for Generation Y and personnel management to a little over 6,000. All right. So, but get this idea in your head. Work from broad to narrow. Make sure your terms match the literature and make sure that you don't get stuck on one search. It's very important that you understand how to learn terms from what you find and vary your search. You want to try different things. You don't want to just search one thing. All right. So now we have this search 6,000 results. So another thing to consider would be the limits over here on the left. This first box will show you what you've searched. Now, you see that this started in 1989. So that's pretty early on, and you may want to have a historical view, or you may want to read about what's current. And so let's suppose that you want more current information. So I'm going to limit that to 2015. So now we're down to 2000. The next thing you want to consider is the limit by type. So there's different ways you can go with this. If you're doing background research and you want to just connect with what's current, um, and you want to learn what is the conversation around this right now, then you're a good bet would be to go with magazines, trade publications, and news articles. Now, a trade publication is probably the one you're least familiar with. A trade publication would be something that a publication that's written for people in a certain field or discipline. So if you work in hotel management or something like that, then there's probably a trade publication written for you. So these are great sources for background research. And background research is something that's going to be written probably not by an expert. It's not going to include um, research that's done itself, but it may cite research done by someone else. And so this is a good way to kind of browse and learn about your topic. But after you've done that, and it's also a great way, like I said before, to learn different, maybe a tertiary term that you want to add in to narrow down your search a little bit. But after you've read through these and kind of gotten a better idea about your topic, you maybe have refined your research question. You're probably going to want to come in because I know in your assignment, you're going to need to have peer-reviewed articles. So I'm going to X all of these out. I'm actually going to X out the date limit as well. Academic sources, scholarly journals take longer to publish, and so you might want to be a little bit more lenient on the date. So now I'm going to come in and limit it to academic journals. So now we have around 1,600 results. So what I would probably do here is I would go through this first page of results. And the way I would do that is I would hover over this magnifying glass, take a view at the abstract or summary of the article, and then if I wanted to take a closer look at it, then I would drop it in this folder here. If you're concerned about whether or not it's peer reviewed, if you click in on the title, then you can go to the source and you can view whether or not it's peer reviewed. Most all of them should have that information. You can also use the limit here to scholarly peer reviewed journals. This is not a perfect limit. I think sometimes it can make mistakes. The main idea here, though, is just to make sure that you are reading to see if it's actually a research article. Sometimes a peer-reviewed journal can publish a review or an opinion piece, so just make sure what type of article it is. So after I go through and I look through these and I select a few, since I'm at 1,500, I may want to narrow it down a little bit more. If you go down here to subject, show more, then these are going to show you, these subjects will this limit will show you all the subjects within my search. So I may want to go through. So if I'm looking at broadly personnel management, then one thing I may want to choose another term to narrow it down a bit, like employee retention. So I could select one or more of these, update it. I like to select one at a time. And then I could view the 100 articles that are labeled with employee retention as the subject. And so I could go through, take a look at these, drop them in the folder if I was interested in them. I could exit out here, and then that way I could go back and to my broader search, and I could pick another subject. Another thing to consider, we're only searching right now for Generation Y millennials as a keyword and personnel management as a keyword phrase. So if I wanted to heighten one of these, since I know that all of these occur as subjects, I could select here for this to be occur in the subject line. So now I'm at 316. It still maintain my scholarly peer-reviewed journals, which pretty much guarantees that it's going to be an academic journal, as you can see here. There's only one item outside of that. So now all of these that I would look through are going to include Generation Y or millennials in the subject line. Generation Y, Generation Y. So what that does is it just heightens um, the subject of Generation Y as being something that is talked about prominently in my article. So I could go through these and then drop them in the folder if there was anything that I wanted to look at. Now, once I'm done, I can go to folder view. I can see everything that I collected. I could select these and email these to myself, which is great because then you can kind of move your way through the project. Another thing to consider is that you can create an account. You can go to sign in, create a new account. This way, these things that you drop into the folder will stay in your folder. Next time you sign in, you'll have access to those. You'll see this Find It button quite a bit. This just means that the full text is not readily available. So if you click on the Find It, it's going to look to see if there are any other options for full text. This one does not. And so you would need to use ILL in order to request that item. Some of them, maybe this one, maybe not. Okay, good. This one actually found the full text in a different database. So I would just follow this link out to find the full text. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you, if you go to the library's homepage, scroll down, you can schedule a research consultation with me, Jeff Dowdy, and it will show you my available times. And this way you can pick a time that you want to meet with me. Make sure that you make note for me that you want to meet online. Just make note that you want to meet via WebEx. All right. So thank you. If you have any questions, please contact me. All right. Have a good weekend.